Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is Pastor John Das, and welcome to the world premiere presentation of our special singles event that we had on June 5th of 2021. So today, as you are watching this, it's a couple of weeks later, and we had a live Zoom presentation on that day. And so today we're going to present to you what was recorded. The way that we are doing these meetings is that we're going to live record the portion where I'm preaching and speaking, and then afterwards we have a time of questions and answers. We do not record that. We don't present that because we don't want people to utilize people's personal information or things they may have said later on. But we do have our next live Zoom event that you do not want to miss. That's going to be August the 7th. That should be a Saturday, August the 7th. And we're going to be doing that one at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 10 a.m. New York time. And you have to take the time to find out the calculations for where you are. We have several people in Kenya, in India, in England, and other parts of the world. And of course, as time goes on, more and more people will jump on board and connect with us. So sit back, relax, enjoy what's being shared today. It's very exciting, very interesting. And our goal for our international singles ministry is to encourage people who are single, to build them up and to prepare them for whatever God has for their lives. So I want to make sure it's clear. Our goal is not just to help everyone get married. I know sometimes single folk feel like that's their main goal. And the sad thing is some people who are single may not be interested in getting married right now, or maybe God hasn't called them to marriage at this point or at all. And other people are pressuring them and influencing them. Hey, you need to get married. You need to have children. Look, you can adopt some children. As a single person, you surely can. But either way, our goal is not just to prepare people for marriage. We want to prepare people for life. And the Lord has opened the door for us, provided the opportunity for us to minister to single people all over the world. And so you are one of them. If you happen to be a married person and you're just sneaking on for the information, welcome. We're glad you're here. We're glad you can receive this. But this is primarily for our single folk, something special God has for them, and we just want to be a blessing to your life. So enjoy the live presentation. It's coming on now, and afterwards I'll have a few words to say to you to encourage you. God bless you. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first international singles event. We are so glad that you all are here. We have about 100 people on a Zoom call today. We are so glad that you are here. We're hoping to do more of these into the future. I want to thank God for my father, Apostle Harry Das. He's gone home to be with the Lord, but I thank God for him. Everything I have, I got from him and also from others. But I thank God for him. I thank God for my mother, Mother Cora Das, who is still alive at this point in time doing ministry. And I want to give honor to my wonderful wife, Pastor Rosalind Das. She might be sneaking on to check things out as well. But I thank God for my family, my children, and everyone who's a part of our ministry. So we're going to go ahead and go right into what we're talking about today. And the title of what I want to share with you today for our single people is Marriage Material. Marriage material. Now, there are many reasons why people want to get married. Love, companionship, commitment, security, to get rid of loneliness, financial opportunities, to have a family unit in which to raise children. Maybe you're receiving some pressure from family, friends, or your society to go get married. You got to get married now. Maybe you want to get married because it just seems like the right timing in your life to do so. Or it seems like this is what's supposed to happen next. Some of us want to get married so that we can get help in order to fulfill God's purpose for our lives. And for some of us, we just want to go ahead and get married, and we want to do this so we can get it over with. And we can stop thinking about it. We don't have to worry about it anymore. We can just get married, move on with our lives, and be done with it. Be done with it. But isn't it funny or interesting that we have a long list of items that must be fulfilled by the other person, right? But many times we don't have those items on a list that we have to fulfill ourselves. In moving forward to marriage, we all have a particular type of person in mind. They should look like this, they should behave like that, they should be this type of person or that type of person, they should make me feel a certain way, or they should bring XYZ to the table, or XYZ, depending upon where you live in the world, to the table. And so we've got this long list of things we expect of others, but do we have the same list for ourselves? And so somehow we're going to go into marriage just the way we are. And we think the other person's supposed to change, but we don't have to change a single thing because we're fine. We're okay. Our problems, they need to deal with, but I don't want them to have any problems that I have to deal with. Well, that doesn't seem right, fair, or even realistic. But on the other hand, some of us are so desperate to get married that we will accept anything or anyone just the way they are, even if the way they are is really, really, really bad. So that's not good either. All right. So let's understand this when it comes to marriage. And what I'm talking about today is not only about marriage. I'm here to minister to singles while you are single. But it's important to talk about marriage because that's a key issue that a lot of singles deal with and talk about and prepare for and wonder about. And there's a lot of pressure, especially in some of our cultures and our countries to get married for different reasons. And so it's important that you do have standards. You don't just go out here and marry somebody because you want to get married. But it's also important to understand that some of us are not married now because our standards are too high. It's impossible for anyone to please us. And then the standards that we make them upheld to, we're not necessarily upholding those standards. So it's not even a fair exchange. So consider those things as we go forward. So now, what is the goal for being married? How do you find the perfect spouse? And how can you make sure that you will have a good marriage and that your marriage will work? Are these questions you ever thought about? Come on, what is the goal? Why get married anyway? What's the goal for being married? And then how do I find the perfect spouse to be married to? And how can I make sure that I will have a good marriage and that my marriage will work and it won't end in divorce? And so we're going to cover all of these things later on today and even in future sessions. But God has something very specific. God has something very specific and in mind for us today. And I'm going to go ahead and cover that. Are you ready? Come on, put some thumbs up, wave, say hi to each other quietly. You're still on mute, but let everybody know that you're out there, you're alive, and let's go ahead. So before we answer those questions, we must first answer this one. What is the purpose or goal for being single? What is the purpose or goal for being single? Because if you do not find out what that purpose is, and if you cannot fulfill that purpose, then what makes you think you qualify to move on to the goal or the purpose or the opportunity of marriage? So marriage in a way is a next step. And in a way, it's also like a graduation. So have you fulfilled the purpose for being single? Do you even know what the purpose for being single is before you start pursuing the goal of marriage and trying to pursue that? So what is the purpose or goal for being single? The goal for being single is to be successful while you are single. Say it again. The goal for being single is to be or to become successful while you are still single. We're going to find out today, a lot of people think that marriage is what makes us successful. That if I'm struggling as a single person, man, if I can just get married, if I can just get to that altar, if I can just get that man or that woman, then together it's going to help me to become a great person. Let me say it again. The goal for being single is to be successful while you are still single. The goal for being single is not marriage. The goal for being single is not marriage. We said again, the goal for being single is not marriage. Why is this important? A lot of people, they get frustrated because they feel like they're being unsuccessful because they are not married yet. That something is wrong with them because they haven't gotten married. And so somehow we have this idea, this thought that the goal for being single is to stop being single. Like the goal, I'm successful as a single person if I can stop being single and I can just go ahead and get married. But the goal for being single is to be as successful as you possibly can. And then marriage is something else we'll pursue at a different time in a different way. But I hope you get that in there. So before we talk about marriage, and we will, let's look at a little bit of math. Now, some of you might be ready to disconnect now and leave because math might not be your thing. We're going to talk about math today, but we're going to talk about God's math, mathematics. We're going to talk about God's math. Let's look at Mark chapter 10, verse 8 in the New Living Translation. Mark chapter 10, verse 8. And it says this, and the two are united into one, since they are no longer two, but one. The two are united into one, since they are no longer two, but one. And we see this confirmed again in Scripture, Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, Matthew chapter 19, verse 5, and Ephesians chapter 5, verse 31. But we're just focusing on Mark chapter 10, verse 8 today. That's the one that we're reading from, and from the New Living Translation. Now, those of us who are Christians and believers, we know that God is a spirit and God does spiritual things. He doesn't just do the normal things. He does things that are different. He does things that are spiritual. So we've just accepted that in God's math, somehow supernaturally, 1 plus 1 equals 2. We've just accepted that. Fine, that's just what God says. But we all know that 1 plus 1 does not equal 1. It equals 2. Even though God's word says the two shall become one, we know that mathematically in natural math, 1 plus 1 equals 2. It doesn't equal 1. But what if God was not using addition? What if addition is not what God was using to come up with his mathematical equation? What if he's using multiplication? Because we're going to find out today that marriage is designed to be a multiplier. When you get married and God blesses you with the opportunity to have children, the goal is not to just get married where two of you get married and then you die one day and that's it. The goal is for two people to get married and you start having children. You procreate, or you what? You multiply. Come on. God even says what? Multiply, replenish the earth, multiply. So when you use multiplication as the symbol or the action with these numbers, check this out. 1 times 1 equals what? 1. Oh my God, what a powerful revelation. God wasn't being as deep as we thought he was. We just were using the wrong way of putting these numbers together. 1 plus 1 is 2, but 1 times 1 is 1. And the Bible says when, 1 can put 1,000 to flight, 2 can put 10,000 to flight. God is into multiplication, not just addition. Adam and Eve were the first two human beings. Now there's like 8 billion people on the planet because the two of them multiplied. They multiplied. So marriage is a multiplier. We're going to find out if you come in blessed, then your position of blessings is multiplied in the marriage. If you come in cursed, then your position of being cursed is actually multiplied in the marriage. That's why marriages exponentially make people better or exponentially make them worse, because marriage is a multiplier. It multiplies whatever you have. If you bad, it's going to multiply the fact that you're bad, and it's going to increase and spill over to your kids generationally. If you're good, it'll multiply the goodness you have, spill over into your kids, and move on generationally as well. So marriage is a multiplier, and this is the format that God has designed for us. Now, sometimes we think about, well, if two people come together, then they'll become one person. Well, what if one of the people is like a half person, halfway okay, halfway good, half bad, but the other person is like half good, half bad? Then if we put those two halves together, because one half plus one half equals one whole, so maybe marriage is the solution for me. Maybe getting married, even though I'm jacked up, is going to make the situation better and make me better. But we just understood here from the mathematics, God is not adding, he's multiplying. So check this out. One half times one half actually becomes one quarter. It's actually less. It's smaller. It's worse. Check this out. If you are not a half a person, but you become a 100% of a person, in other words, as a single person, you focus on perfecting yourself and becoming the best you can be. With the help of God, with the help of education, with the help of whatever you have to do, you become 100% the best that you can be. If you marry someone who has also been working on becoming 100%, as a single person, and not focusing on marriage to make them 100%, but as a single person, they become the best that they can be. Do you know mathematically what that looks like? Do it yourself. 100% times 100% equals 1. My God. 100% times 100% equals 1. 50% times 50% equals 0.25 or 25%. Now check this out. What if you say, well, I'm going to get to 80% of a person? And none of us are perfect, but I want you to understand the concept here so we can focus less on trying to get married and focus more on perfecting ourselves as a single person. In fact, the pool of fish that you are fishing from, the group of people that you think you qualify for marriage, if you become a better person, you elevate yourself and you can go fishing in a better pool with better fish. The better you elevate yourself, the more you qualify to even interact with and connect with people at a better or a higher level. And then you have a more quality marriage just because both of you are better quality people. As single individuals, then you go into the marriage. So let's check this out. So 80% times 80%. So, oh man, well, I'm 80% there. The other person's 80% there. I know God is still working on us. And I know I'm not ready for marriage yet, but I feel like I'm far enough along. I just want to jump in. Let's just jump in by faith. Us spiritual folk, come on, man. We talk about faith. Faith is the substance. Well, marriage is the substance. I'm going to jump in. Here's mathematically 80% times 80% actually equals 64% or 0.64. Man, it's not much higher over 50%. So mathematically, it really does not help to not be ready for marriage. Now, here's the last one I want to look at. Now, what if you say, well, I'm at 80%. I'm at 80%. I feel like I'm good enough and strong enough, Pastor Dos, nobody's perfect. And then the other person is only 20%. But I like him and he's cute and he's funny and I'm getting older and I'm going to trust God. Let's just see what happens. And since I'm at 80%, I can carry his 20%. And shouldn't that be 100%? Nope, because we're not adding 80%, 20%, which would be 100%. We're multiplying them. When you multiply 80% by 20%, it actually equals 16%. That's 0.16. So you do the math later. Now, what am I saying? I'm not locking us into math. I want to change our mindset. I want to help people because I'm going to go into something very deep here because we're going to talk about divorce rates because that's real. That's real. We're going to get to that because we don't want any of you to be divorced. And if you've already been divorced, this is your second time going through, we don't want it to happen again. We want to change your mindset, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. So understand when you use multiplication, the numbers change drastically and exponentially as opposed to using addition or subtraction. We want to get married, and we want others to match up to our standard of marriage. But do you match up to the standard of what someone else is looking for in marriage for themselves. So here's my question. Are you marriageable? Maybe it's a word I made up. Here we go. Are you marriageable? Do you qualify for the institution of marriage? Or do you just want to be in the institution of marriage? Are you marriageable? Let's look at here at Genesis chapter 24 to see some clues to what God may be saying. Genesis chapter 24. So let's look at some clues we might see here in Genesis chapter 24 to see what it is that God may be looking for when it comes to marriage. And I'm going to read. I didn't get a chance to give all this. So we'll type that in there, Genesis chapter 24, and you can read that later. I'm just going to touch on some verses. So please type that in for me, Genesis chapter 24. Now, I'm going to start with verse 2. It says, one day Abraham said to his oldest servant, who was the man in charge of his household, take an oath by putting your hand under my thigh. So these guys were not gay or homosexual. In their culture, when you put your hand under someone's thigh, it was a way of saying that I'm being personal with you and I'm making a covenant with you. It wasn't anything homosexual at all. So take an oath by putting your hand under my thigh. Swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and earth, that you will not allow my son to marry one of these local Canaanite women. Go instead to my homeland, to my relatives, and find a wife there for my son Isaac. Find a wife there for my son Isaac. Now let's look at some quick biblical history, because we're looking at one of the mothers of Israel. Now this is deep. This is amazing. So when God called Abraham, Abraham was already married to Sarah. Follow me now. So we have no idea what the process was that Abraham used as a heathen, as a non-believer, as someone who did not have a relationship or a covenant with God to match up with his wife. In fact, they were stepbrother and sister. That's a whole nother issue. But understand me. So Sarah was there not necessarily by God's choice, because God did not call Sarah because of anything. He called Abraham because of his faith. And the reality is, we find out later, they could not have children at first, actually because of Sarah, not because of Abraham. So I'm just giving you some background. But either way, we thank God for Sarah. The blessing comes through Sarah. It is what it is. We're not getting too deep into that. But now Abraham is moving forward. Now Abraham, who now has a relationship and a covenant with God, wants to now select the woman, wants to select the person who's going to get married to his only son of covenant. So Ishmael was one of his sons, but Ishmael was not a son of covenant. Ishmael came through Hagar, where Isaac came through Sarah. So Isaac was the son of covenant according to Judaism and according to Christianity and according to the Bible that we believe in and that we read. So this is an important point here. This is now the first woman who is going to be chosen and selected to be a part of the lineage, where Sarah was there because she just happened to already be married to Abraham. Here's how the selection was done. Abraham reaches out to his most trusted senior servant and says, go and get a wife for my son. Does not say, Isaac, go online, find somebody you like what you looking for, man? What you looking for, bruh? Well, just go out there and figure it out. He kept Isaac at home. Said, dude, marriage is way more important than just your feelings, especially this marriage, because we've got some things that have to be passed down the lineage. God has some things in store for us. And if you're a Christian, you believe and God has some things in store for you. He's got some purpose for you. He's got some destiny for you. And so marriage is critical. It's important. So you're not just marrying anybody, because whatever you do when you come together and you produce will last for many years to come. And it could either be a part of fulfilling God's plan for your life and your lineage, or it could be a part of causing a curse or a hindrance in what God wants to do. So this is how they handled it. He did not send Isaac out. He sent his chief trusted servant. Now here's what happens. Verse 12. We're going to jump to verse 12. So the servant prays and says, "Oh Lord God, my master, Abraham, he prayed, give me success today and show unfailing love to my master Abraham. See, I am standing here beside this spring, and the young women of the town are coming out to draw water. So here goes the servant, and he's standing out there, and there's all these honeys, all these ladies, all these eligible bachelorettes. Which one does he pick and why? Here's what happened. He says, this is my request. I will ask one of them, please give me a drink from your jug. If she says yes, have a drink, and I will water your camels too. Let her be the one you have selected as Isaac's wife. This is how I will know that you have shown unfailing love to my master. So to break it down, in different translations might say it differently. Here's what the wise servant said when he was making the biggest decision to get the first mother of Israel that's going to be selected. Literally, she was the mother of Israel. Come on now, because Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and this was now going to be Jacob's mother. My God. So literally, this was how the mother of Israel was selected. So here's what happens. We see something here. The servant does not look for beauty, even though, thank God, she was beautiful. The servant did not even focus on whether she was a virgin. And of course, that was something that was important to them. But he focused on this. Woo! Is she willing to serve? Is she willing to serve? And then what I ask her to do, is she willing to go above and beyond what is expected? My God, that's the foundation of marriage right there. Whether you're male or female, if you marry someone who's willing to serve you above and beyond what is expected, if you go into the marriage understanding that you're not going in to be served, but you're going in to serve the other person above and beyond what is expected, this was the highlighted thing. And it came from a what? A servant. Woo! Somebody who knew what it meant to serve. Somebody who was a professional servant. Someone who was not just trusted and a part of Abraham's crew, but he was a servant in Abraham's crew. And this is the one who went out. This is what he looked for. And this is how he selected the wife for Isaac. Isn't God amazing? I hope you get that in your spirit. So start changing your mindset. Marriage is not who can serve me, but how can I go in and serve them? And if you're marrying someone who's not willing to serve you, you might be marrying the wrong person, and you might have hell to pay. You might have hell to pay. So let me tell you something, y'all. Let's be real. We're more than halfway done here, and we're going to go towards the end, but we're right there. Married couples are not telling you everything. We're not. We post stuff on Facebook. Happy anniversary. I love my wife. I love my husband. Things are great, whatever it is. Some of you grew up in households where the whole world thought your parents were happy, but you knew they weren't. There was fighting in the home. And some of you, if you've been in a previous marriage, there's times when you go out and smile and you look beautiful in public, and people will say you're a lovely couple. But you don't tell the truth all the time. You don't say, nah, we had a fight today. I don't like him. She doesn't like me. I'm thinking about divorcing them. So while we are trying to survive and keep our marriages together, it's not that we're being fake, but it's like sometimes in a marriage, when you're married, you're doing everything you can to keep the peace, make the other person happy, and try to see the positive side when things might actually be negative. And you as single people, all you pick up all you receive is the stuff that looks good and glamorous. And there are some great, good, glamorous things about marriage, but there are some tough, dingy, dirty, difficult, hard, painful things about marriage too. It doesn't matter how good or bad you are as a person, marriage itself can be very, very difficult and very tough for different reasons. And we're not telling you all of that. So single folk, you have to take the responsibility on yourself to educate yourself, to make sure you're getting all the information you need so you're not being deceived about the institution of marriage. The church is also not telling you everything either. Now, Revive Church, we're going to try to tell you the truth and tell you the good, the bad, and the stinkiness of marriage, because it's important for you to get all the information you possibly can. But I think in some of the previous generations, I don't know if maybe they were just perfect or just mild-mannered or just I don't know what their issue was, but everything was just great. Oh, marriage is good. It's sweeter than this. It's wonderful. It's great. And we all just bought into it. And maybe we didn't get all the information we needed so we could approach marriage the right way and have more of a successful mindset, and also go into it understanding how to approach this institution called marriage. And also, the world is not telling you everything either. They're not. Marriage or divorce. The world will say, if it doesn't work out, just get divorced. Divorce is painful too. Can I get an amen? Anybody willing to type in there? Hey, divorce is difficult too. Maybe you lived in a home where your parents got divorced. Everybody's smiling. You get together for family events, but it still hurts. Maybe you got divorced at some point in time and you've moved on, or you've tried to move on, but there's still parts of it that's hard. Thank you for being honest and sharing that. So the world doesn't tell you everything. They show you the glamour of these Hollywood marriages, and in London, folk are getting married and all this stuff, and they get divorced. Oh, they just split the money and the kids or whatever. But God has a plan where we all succeed. We are successful. We make it, and marriage becomes what it's supposed to be. And that's why I'm here today, to encourage you as single folk. The number one, the goal for being single is not marriage. But if you are going to get married, let's give you the tools so you can succeed, you can do well. Your marriage can be a blessing, and you can be blessed in marriage. So nobody is telling you everything. It's on you to dig in, find the facts. And John Doss, I'm going to tell you as much as I can to help you out. All right? Now, but let me tell you something. Sometimes people are speaking without opening their mouths. People are speaking. They're talking to you. And let's hear what they're saying. Let's hear what they are saying. Here we go. Let's talk about divorce rates in some of the places around the world. Let's talk about divorce rates, because people can tell you all they want. Oh, marriage is great. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's great. But let's look at those divorce rates, because that's where the truth is going to come out. So in India, according to my research, and I could be wrong, feel free to correct me. It says that the divorce rate in India is about 1%. It's about 1%. In Vietnam, it's about 7%. In Kenya, it was 10% in 2015, but it grew exponentially to 18% in 2020. That's not good, Kenya. So it was at 10% in 2015, and it mushroomed to 18% in 2020. The United States of America, 45%. Divorce rate is 45%. And then in Luxembourg, over in Europe, they take it, they have the crown. They get the winning trophy. 65%. 65% divorce rate. In Luxembourg, 65 divorce rate. Isn't that crazy? 65%, 65%, y'all. And of course, in Muslim countries, it's like less than 0.5%. And we'll talk and touch on that in a minute. We'll go deeper into that. In Muslim countries, it's like, man, they must have great marriages. Things are just great in Muslim countries. I think not. We'll talk about that. So now, the first thing I want you to look at here that I observe is very interesting. What's different between India and the rest of the countries? One thing that's very different. In general, the marriages in India are arranged. They are arranged. Just like what Abraham did with his son Isaac. Now, follow me now. Trust me, I'm not going in the direction you think I am. I'm not saying, oh, we need to have our marriages arranged. I just want you to understand something. I want to talk to your mind, the cognitive part of you, so you pull something from this, you get something from this. In India, divorce rate 1%, and most of the marriages are arranged. United States, freedom to marry who we want. I think by next year you can marry a chicken, a dog, or a pig, or a tree, or you can marry whatever you want. But 45% divorce rate. And then Luxembourg, freedom to do what you want to do, 65% divorce rate. Now, I think a big part of this is because we're not being educated to understand the type of person we're supposed to marry. We marry people because they look good and they make us laugh. They're funny. They have money. I can see myself with them. I like white people. I like black people. But you see, it's a whole lot different in the kingdom of God, and we follow God's plan. We follow God's way. The Lord might have a will for you to marry someone that does not fit the mold that you have, the mindset that you have. And so we got to make sure to keep that in mind. But let's go back to the natural thing. So in India, when the parents are selecting, now let's go with this understanding. Let's say you have some good parents, some great parents. Well, parents are going to try to select a spouse for their child that's gonna succeed. Do they have a degree? Do they have money? Can they birth kids? What is their attitude like? Hopefully, my parents are hoping they look pretty, attractive, or handsome. Let's not throw that out. We're still natural. You want to be able to look at them most mornings. You don't want to close your eyes when you're with them. Like, you got to close your eyes and you're with them by faith, because they just look so bad to you. But the main focus should not just be looks, but the parents, if they're loving parents, if they're good parents, if they're wise parents, just like Abraham when he sent his servant, you're thinking about the big picture. Yes, you want them to look good. Yes, there's certain things that should attract you, but you're looking at more things than that. And so I believe that's a big part of it. Now, I do understand culturally, there's some cultures that don't tolerate divorce. I think in a lot of your Muslim countries, you either can be put to death or it's really extreme. So the reality is some of those marriages might not be happy at all. So let's go there. They might not be happy, because you can be married but not happily married. But let's look at the United States, 45% divorce rate. Do you know in America, when people get divorced and they get married again, the divorce rate for second marriages, that means what happens to second marriages? 60% divorce rate. And then the ones that get married a third time, third marriages, 73% divorce rate. Let's look at that. America, 45%. Sad thing is, even in the church, y'all, not just in the world. So to me, it's not a spiritual thing, really. It's a maturity thing. It's a misunderstanding, because man didn't make marriage. God did. So we've got to go to the maker of marriage and find out what he intended marriage to be, and then prepare ourselves for his marriage, not our marriage, for his marriage that he made. And when we enter into it, we have a better chance of making it. And I believe if there was like a 5 to 10% divorce rate, even amongst the best and greatest people, that's not that bad compared to where we are right now, 45% in America. And so people say, well, I got divorced. Now I learned from that. I'm not going to go with an abuser. I'm going to make sure the money's straight. We jump right back into marriage. 60% divorce rate. Oh my God. Okay, well, I've been married twice. I'm a professional at this. Surely I can make it. 73% divorce rate going back in. That lets us know it's not just that people made a mistake. It's that we're not preparing for it. We're not understanding it. And there's something that we are completely missing. And a big part of this is it's important to let God choose. It's important to change some of the things that we're choosing. Let's move on here. We're going to get ready to go towards closure. It is important to have high and reasonable standards for others, just as long as you have those same standards for yourself. But even more importantly, do you match up to God's standard for marriage? That's a big question today. Do you match up for God's standard for marriage? In other words, are you ready for marriage? Are you marriageable? And the title of today is this: Are you marriage material? Now, we got to come back and do a part 2, a part 3. We're not going to keep you all day, but I want to focus on a particular point here when it comes to marriage material. I got 2 more things and I'm done. So what do I mean by marriage material? What does that mean, marriage material? Marriage material means this: are you able to handle marriage? Whatever marriage is. So in our mindset, marriage is just 2 people who are in love, decide to commit themselves, live together, have kids, and make money. No, marriage is a whole lot more than that. First of all, once you get married, Satan attacks you. That's the part you didn't think about. Satan hates marriage. He hates unity. He hates covenants. And so once you get married, stuff you didn't even think about, is going to happen because Satan is going to oppose you and fight you simply because you got married. Wow, I didn't think about that. Yes, think about that. And so, are you able to handle marriage? And you are willing to get married. I want to get married, but are you able to handle it? So let's see a mindset of God, our Creator and our Father. One of the attributes of God is not just the fact that He is loving and that He is willing, but one of the attributes of God is He is able. See, you might be willing to get married. You might have a desire to get married. You might like to get married, but are you able? Are you able? Let's look at this in scripture. Jude chapter 1, verse 24, it says this, now unto him that is able to keep us from falling. Now unto him that is able. It doesn't say willing, desirous to, has a great thought to. It says, man, God is able. He is able to keep us from falling. One of the attributes of maturity is ability. One of the attributes of God is ability. One of the attributes and materials of marriage is ability. Be honest with yourself. Am I able to deal with somebody passing gas? Am I able if their teeth fall out? Am I able if they gain 300 kilos? Am I able if they lose their job? Am I able if they cheat on me? Am I able if they don't handle money well? Am I able if I find out that they have another child outside of marriage they didn't tell me about? So marriage has a lot to do with our ability, and that's the material I'm talking about. Because marriage, although it can be blissful and wonderful and great, it can be difficult and hard. If you can't handle being single, you surely can't handle being married. Let me tell you, because the marriage boat is tougher than the single boat. The marriage life is harder. And look, when you're single, you are free. You can go where you want to go, do what you want to do within reason, spend your money how you want to, gain weight, lose weight, whatever, talk how you want to. But when you get married, because of that covenant, you can't, because now you represent somebody else. You represent somebody else as well, and restrictions are there. I don't want to be restricted. Well, then don't get married. Don't. You are free. Paul even said it. Paul says, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. We don't listen to Paul. We go do it, and we're wondering. So if you can't handle being single, I'm telling you, you can't handle being married, because married is harder than being single. Even though it doesn't seem that way, I promise you it is. One more verse that talks about this attribute of being able to handle something, not just willing, but able. Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, it says, now unto him that is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us. Ephesians 3:20. Now I'm going to take a quick break here. We're still recording. This is important. Minister Latoya, will you please put up the Cash App information? Also put up my Gmail information. I don't know what my PayPal information is. We are asking that you sow into the ministry. If you've been blessed by the teaching today, doesn't mean you like it. Come on now. Sometimes what's good for us doesn't mean we like it or enjoy it. But if it's the truth and it makes sense, it's beneficial, you've been blessed. And we've worked hard to put this together for you. We love you. We care about you. We presented this to you for free, but we are asking that you sow, that you give, to bless the ministry, myself, my family, what we're doing. We're doing this worldwide. And the interesting thing is you might have some folk in different parts of the world who can't really afford to give anything. And some of you may have extra to give. Please sow. If you're receiving truth and God is blessing you, and at the end of this, I'm going to pray for God's blessing over your lives. You have about 100 people here on this recording. Others will watch it later. But please, as you hear this, as you're blessed by it, even years to come, sow, send something in. Be a blessing. Around the world, you can give by PayPal. I think PayPal is in India. It's in England. It's in Africa. Please sow. Please give something as the Lord puts it on your heart and as you can to be a blessing. So let's wrap it up here. Let's talk about marriage material. One of the most stressful things in life, is the performance of a missile, a rocket, or an airplane. Anybody ever been in an airplane before? You've been in an airplane, a helicopter. Of course, most of us haven't been in a rocket or a missile. But when they create these different items, these items carry life, or they carry missiles, or they carry important things, and it's expected for them to get from one place to another. And when you're flying through the air, do you know you can start off your flight in Miami, Florida, and maybe it's 120 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what the other measurement is. So Fahrenheit, I don't know what Celsius or centigrade is. Y'all use other things around the world. Could be 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Do you know when you go up into the higher parts, whether it's called the stratosphere or wherever that is in the air, it could be 25 degrees below zero. So that airplane has to be able to go from one environment, one climate, straight to another. And so in the creation of an airplane, they start off making an airplane with wood. Then they had some steel. Then they had some other contraptions. Then they had aluminum. And so here's where we're going with this. In order for an airplane to succeed and to be as big as it can, to fly as fast as it can, to be as safe as it can, and to go through that very strenuous journey of climate change, it's almost like a marriage, because a marriage needs the type of material that can survive the changes of life, the sudden changes, whether it's the climate changes or the atmosphere changes or landing or taking off or difficulties or hardship. And so there's always been the search for a material, the best type of material or materials to produce something like an airplane or a rocket ship, because they have to go fast, they have to go far, they have to go through many changes, and you want them to succeed. And many of us are jumping into marriage, and we have wood, hay, we have straw, we have paper, we got all the stuff that we brought from our parents and our cultures and our tribe, and some of that stuff is not good for marriage. It's not compatible for a successful marriage. But we just go ahead and bring it anyway. And then we say, I'm a trust God. I'm going to trust God. I'm going to trust God. And we do need to trust God, but we need to start off with the best material possible. When God told Noah to build the ark, he didn't just say, go build the ark. He told him exactly what wood to use and gave him the measurement. So he gave him the instructions, but he also told him what material. When Solomon built the temple, God didn't just say, Solomon, build the temple. He gave him the instructions, and he told him exactly what materials. When Moses had to build the tabernacle and the Ark of the Covenant in the wilderness, God didn't just say, my friend, go do it by faith. He gave him the instructions, and he told him exactly what materials. And so let's talk about this. Now, when they started making these airplanes, of course, they've got to be strong. They've got to be fast. They got to deal with temperature. So we've got something called iron. If you ever heard of iron, where iron is very strong. Iron is strong. You can hold the weight and all of that. But iron in its raw form is corrosive. It corrodes easily, so it's not going to last long. Well, steel is strong, but the problem with steel is tough, but steel is a little bit too heavy. It's too heavy to have a really big plane, maybe a small one. Well, aluminum, they found out, is very light. So you can have a big plane, but the problem is aluminum, it bends too much. It's not strong. It can't take a whole lot of pressure. And then aluminum can't handle temperature changes. Aluminum will expand and shrink. And so they discovered a material called titanium. Woo! Titanium. And we need to have a titanium marriage. Titanium is very strong, but it's lightweight. Titanium is flexible when needed, but it's not easily broken. Titanium can withstand extreme temperature changes. You ever been around somebody, their attitude changes, they're happy in the morning and they're angry in the evening, and they want to smile the next day? Like, what is wrong with you? Those are climate changes, attitudinal changes. Titanium does not easily corrode. The elements don't cause it to corrode. And then titanium is amazing because it works well with other elements and other metals. Let's talk about this. So you want a titanium type marriage. Are you the kind of person who is marriage material? Number one, let's talk about corrosiveness. What does it mean when something is corroding or something corrodes? Let me explain to you what this looks like when we talk about corrode. When something corrodes, it means that it's okay as long as it doesn't come into contact with anything else in nature. He said again, it's fine, it's okay as long as it doesn't come into contact with anything else in nature. Well, some of you are corrosive. Some of the folk that you're following are corrosive. They're fine as long as everything else is fine. They're okay as long as something doesn't rub them the wrong way, or they don't like something, or something happens they weren't expecting. Now all of a sudden they're affected and they start corroding. They start getting eaten away. They start falling apart. You are not ready for marriage. They are not ready for marriage. You don't need to be corrosive. And the crazy thing is, some people, they're corrosive when they get together. They are like two elements that don't do well together, and it causes corrosion. It causes destruction. And here you are calling on God, but the foundation of it was you don't know how to handle other elements. You can't handle other people or other, like you go marry someone just like yourself so you guys can try to be like each other. Man, sometimes you need the opposites. You don't just need someone like yourself. And so that's what a material is when it is corrosive. We need to be a non-corrosive material. The next thing is we talk about strength. Oh my goodness. Some of you are strong. You know, you come from a very strong tribe, a very strong family. You always know what to do. You always call the shots, but you're so heavy. You're too heavy. Nobody else can handle you. A spouse can't handle you. Your kids can't handle you. You have all the answers. You always know what to do. You have all the instructions. You have all the correction. So you're strong. Nothing makes you fall apart, but you're not lightweighted. Nobody else can handle you. You're like a lion when you come home from work. Nobody wants to be around you. So you're strong, but you're too heavy. That plane is not going to fly. That marriage, that relationship is not going to work. Then we talk about flexibility. Flexibility. Sometimes it's important for things to bend. They discovered that in building high-rise towers, whether you know it or not, when the wind blows, architecturally, they decide it's better if the building can actually sway some with the wind. Look it up yourself. Because if it's too rigid, the wind can cause it to snap or to break. And there's some of us, we're not flexible. It's either our way or it's no way at all. Well, stay single. Stop trying to get married. Because when you get married, whether you're the male or the female, you've got to be able to work along with each other. Come on. There's got to be some flexibility without breakability, flexibility where you can bend a little bit and then come right back in. Amen. Somebody give God some praise out here. We're almost done. Then we talk about extreme temperatures. So now we're not talking about other things, but just, temperatures has to do with a situation happens and you all are happy, but then something happens, you're sad. There's a death in the family, or you lose your home, or there's a flood. I mean, life happens. Things happen. Are you able to handle changes in life well? Are you able to handle the attitudes of life? You break your leg, something happens. This is real life. And if you can't handle that as a single person, when you get married, exponentially, these things can rip and tear marriages apart. And the last thing is, titanium is amazing because you can have alloys. It's called alloys. When you mix metals or you mix elements together, and they actually create better elements. They actually create better things. Titanium gets better when you mix it with aluminum, when you mix it with this, when you mix it with that, and it can actually do more. And for some of us, we're so set in our ways. Even if our ways are good, we just can't work with others. We can't get along with others. And if you can't do that as a single person, it does not magically change because you became a married person. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed our first session. We're going to stop the recording right now, and we're going to have a time of discussion. We're not going to record your discussion. That's nobody's business. But those of y'all who will watch this later, God bless you. I hope you enjoyed it. And once again, stay connected with us. You can reach out to us at johndas.com. All right, everybody. Wow. I hope you enjoyed that. I know that I did. When it was live and just watching it again, it was a blessing and an encouragement to me. Do me a huge favor. First of all, please feel free to share this with others. It's not going to be up for long. I think for a few days, maybe a week. We want to treat this information that God is giving to us in a valuable way. We don't just want it to be out there floating. We want people to take the time and intentionally watch these videos, these recordings, these live presentations. And so please share this with others. Tell them about the ministry. Tell them about what's going on. Give them an opportunity to watch this that you have just watched, and hopefully you were blessed by it. Also, keep in mind, August the 7th, we have our next live presentation, and I'm going to be talking about desires. We're going to talk about desires, the desires of our heart, how to handle those desires, how to deal with them, how to walk in holiness and righteousness as a single person. But we're also going to discuss and discover the desires that God has for us. What are his desires towards us? What does he think about us? How does he want us to live our lives? And we're going to give you some very practical tools on how you can be successful and how you can better live your life as a Christian and as a single person. And also, if you do get married at some point in time, those tools will work for you then as well. And then after that, maybe a couple of months later from then, I don't know exactly when, we're going to talk about loneliness and how to deal with that. So stay with it, stay connected. Please share this with others. Please go to Eventbrite or Facebook or wherever you found out about the ministry, or reach out to your friends and sign up for the August 7th Singles Event Extravaganza. It's going to be international, worldwide. Exciting, wonderful. We're expecting 200 people or more on a Zoom call from around the world. The cool thing about Zoom is if you don't have video where you are, you can just kind of listen in. Also, if you just want to do it by phone, especially in the United States, you can call in and listen in. If you don't want to present your face, you don't have to, but we would love to see your beautiful face. One last thing, please consider giving to this ministry, to this outreach. It blesses me, it blesses my family, it blesses our lives, but it will also be a blessing to you. When you sow, you reap. That is a principle of God. So please feel free to do so. My Cash App is $, John Das 1. That's JOHNDAS 1. And I'm hoping throughout this presentation, or even written on where this presentation is, we'll have information for how you can give. Also, if you're around the world, especially in Kenya or India, you can give through PayPal. I think they have some opportunities for you to give through PayPal, maybe even through your phone, and save some of the fees. But in the United States, we can do Cash App, we can do PayPal, there's other ways. But please make sure you sow, especially if what you've experienced, if what you've seen and heard has been a blessing to your life. Please don't hold back. Please sow. And please sow generously. Thank you so much. God bless you. We look forward to seeing you in person and live at our next singles event, August the 7th, 10 a.m. New York time. And then, of course, whatever time it will be for wherever you live. God bless you. Have an amazing day.